This podcast includes explicit content. Listener discretion is advised.
And 3, 2, 1, go! Welcome to a new episode of the Erstis.com podcast. We're in episode 4, and today we're going to be talking about camming, and we have a very special guest, Dion De Rossi. The Erstis podcast. The porn industry has changed massively throughout the years. In the early 2000s, the internet completely changed the way we consume porn, making a lot of people extremely rich in the process. That was the time of the rise of the membership sites. Then free tube sites came along around 2007 and had a catastrophic effect on the industry's ability to make money. Pay-for-porn sites struggled. Piracy became a huge issue and membership subscriptions plummeted. Only the finest sites survived. Wink, Erstis. The adult industry was now full of out-of-work actors and actresses looking for a way to guarantee an income. Cam sites began to grow exponentially. Today, 12,500 cam models online at any given time can be found, and more than 240,000 viewers at any given time. Of the top 10 adult sites in the world, according to the Alexa rankings, 5 are cam sites. So guys, as usual on the table with me, we have Lina Bembe.
Hello.
Pandora.
Hello.
And Olivia Rose.
Hello.
I'm Paulita Papel. And I'm wondering, guys, because you sent us a very interesting WhatsApp message yesterday. What were you doing, Pandora and Olivia?
Well, me and Pandora were a bit bored last night, so we decided to smoke some joints and go on a camming website, because we've actually never been on one before. We're pretty rookie, to be honest.
It was definitely an interesting experience.
Yeah, we're replacing Netflix now?
Yeah, we
there's
went
not a lot on
and
Netflix.
did not chill. We did not chill. That was definitely important.
So guys, tell us more. How was your experience?
Well, it took us a while to really get going with it, didn't it? I feel like we kept coming across people, and it just felt a bit like Skyping your friend, but they were on their phone the whole time, but naked, because they were sort of watching. Obviously, they're getting loads of messages in, and they're having to sit at the computer screen, like, typing. So it felt like really low energy. And then we sort of searched through these, and we were like, boring. And then we found this amazing guy with just like these bright blue eyes, studio setup, who was like already dancing around to Linkin Park and like showing his muscles. And we got super excited. And we had all of these tokens to spend, which we're obviously really excited about also. And then we realized that this guy takes song requests. So then we were like, yes!
And there's nothing more than we like than a good karaoke.
Exactly. So we got him to dance to I Will Survive.
Oh, yeah, it is!
And we also thought we had to do something else, so we got him to like soap up his chest as well. He had quite a hairy chest.
But that didn't really work out.
Didn't really work out. We didn't explain it properly. Like, he kept wanting to put lotion on, and we were like, no, soap. And then he got this bar of soap and was just rubbing it on his dry chest. And we were like, no.
Obviously haven't seen enough car washes.
Yeah. And they were like, can you get a jug of water? And he was like, no, that will ruin my floor.
Was this actually your very first experience as sex clients?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it was really powerful.
And how was it?
I think what was interesting was a lot of them had this like vibrator in that you could like send tokens, and then it will send different degrees of vibration. So you sent like 100 tokens, it'd be like and that was really weird, because you got that immediate feedback, like you sent that and then you'd see them go, ah! And that was really freaky.
Yeah.
Like, that really shocked us to start with. We were like, ah!
Yeah, like, and I have to say, I don't know if it was probably the thing that let me down the most.
Yeah, me too, actually.
It was a little bit like, because they had that thing in them, and because I just was watching it, it didn't feel very real. But it was the bits that I did enjoy about the webcamming was being able to like converse with them and ask them to do something and for them to be open to do it. Like it was nothing. Like they're like, okay, yeah, of course I'll dance for you. Or there was like this French girl who looked like your girlfriend. You'd be camming with your girlfriend and she was just kind of dancing around and like just kind of like talking to us very sweetly. And I was like, okay, I enjoyed that experience more than the vibrating thing.
For me,
What were your favorite bits?
But on the vibrating thing, though, it just felt a little bit weird to me. Like, have you guys heard of Milgram's Experiment? It's that 60s experiment where it's like there's someone in a room like giving someone electric shocks in the other room, but they're not really doing it, but they keep amping it up, and it's a challenge to see how obedient people will be. But it just felt a bit like doing something, like I felt nervous about it, like I was because there was such a distance between me and that person. Like I have no idea how they're feeling, and I'm just choosing to spend a load of money and like make, and like if they're enjoying it, which is obviously the assumption, then that's fine, and it's kind of nice because you're paying for someone's pleasure. And you see other people in the room paying for it as well, obviously. Yeah. So you can sort of watch for free, but then everyone else is like paying their tokens, so you can just watch on someone else's pleasure. Which is interesting.
And I also liked how they would thank you, but they would thank you with your username. So they'd be like, oh.
Thank you, Olivia.
And there's other people in the room watching it as well. So you feel kind of special, like this kind of connection there, which I was like, okay, now I kind of understand why it's such a big part of the porn industry.
There was one that I really enjoyed, the hippie woman, and she had like this beautiful setup in her room. She even had the schedule on the side of her video of these erotic readings that she was doing. She was doing erotic readings to ASMR.
Sean let out a choked groan. He was pumping furiously now.
Picture.
Oh, that's Pearls so cute. Of pre-cum tiered from the tip. The droplets landed.
She was just a beautiful reader. We were super relaxed.
She was very good. She had the keyboard next to her. She wasn't even looking at the keyboard. She was tapping away at the keyboard, reading away at everything.
And every now and then getting this pulse of vibration from him being like,
And I had this like beautiful background music, you know, for like when you're doing yoga, you have that nice relaxing music. I was like,
it was really therapeutic. Yeah. I think it was interesting also seeing the variety of people that were on there.
And the niches that everyone has. Like there was like a dominatrix as well, woman that we were talking to, and we wanted her to do like, we wanted her to do something, and she just said like, no, this is the niche that I do, this is what I like, this is what I won't do, and this is what I do. And what we wanted was something super PG. I think we wanted, I forgot what we wanted her to do.
We had to like lick her heels, but we sort of got it the wrong way around because we didn't read her description.
And she was very, so
she was very pissed.
She was just like, you have to read the bio,
She was
honey.
pissed. She like put her finger up at us. She was like, I'll show you what I do. And then she put her middle finger up.
Oh, yeah, actually, yes. She did put her finger up at us, actually. Oh.
Yeah.
Did we do that?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think we just exited quickly.
Okay. Well, yeah. She probably deals with a lot.
Code words.
Yeah, that wasn't so good. But I mean, also it's just like, it feels like some people are on there, they're clearly wanting to do it to earn money. They've got like a good setup. But it feels like some people are on there just because they're exhibitionists. Yeah. Or they're a bit lonely and they just want to like be able to share some screen time with some strangers. Like...
There was a girl that, like, we tipped her money. We wanted to roll the dice, and she just...
Oh, my God.
But I paid 50 tokens to roll the dice.
Wait for it.
Oh, is this rolling the dice? Just watching her squirt cream on her butt?
It was weird having the, like, money to spend in that way. I've never had that experience before. I think we got a little bit into it. Yeah. Like, we were a bit like, no, we paid you, do this, which, like, freaked me out a little bit.
Yes, there was a
That's
moment.
A bit weird.
Yeah, we were like, pour water on yourself. He was like, I don't want to ruin my floor. And I was
we
like,
were like,
what do
no,
you
bitch,
mean?
pour water, we paid. Like, that was kind of weird.
There was like this psychological trait that came out that, me and Olivia were like, what is going on with us?
So apparently we're going to have to go through some ethics of being a client with you guys.
I think so.
But we never want to get your kid off. We just want you to dance for us.
That's the main thing.
We wanted to have a sleepover.
That's awesome. Do you think you're going to repeat the experience?
Do we still have money?
Yeah, we still got like 600. I spent a bit more later on that night, actually.
let me pay my rent first, and then if
I went back on it. I found this really beautiful girl. She was like Miami based, and she had this like gold velour underwear on, and she had like 2 pets in the room. It was really funny. At one point, she left to like change the heating, and her dog just like wanders into the frame. It was adorable. Imagine if you find people that you really connect with or really just enjoy watching, like, because you can follow people.
I wish I went to see some sploshing. That was something I was very interested to.
You didn't tell me this.
I didn't think about it until after, because I was watching some documentaries about webcamming a couple of weeks ago, and then the sploshing is supposed to be huge.
What's sploshing?
It's food. People pouring food on themselves and like getting dirty with food. It's
Sitting on cakes.
Sitting on cakes.
I love to know that.
Yes. And like, squelching and I remember watching the documentary, and the girl was like, you really want to make sure that the beans drop, and you can hear every bean drop, because that's what that's what people are there for, to hear that sound. And I was like, oh, okay, well, cool.
Yeah, we didn't really get into sort of fetish territory.
But we still have 600 coins left.
True.
So
Yeah, I think it's quite intense. It's interesting because Lina, you also have done some camming, haven't you?
Yeah, I actually have only one camming experience. It all happened because a friend of mine, her name is Carmina. She's a seasoned cammer, and she recently started doing porn as well. And I think, it was last month that she came to Berlin to visit, and she was like, okay, I'm coming to visit. She was just like proper like holiday purpose. And she stayed at mine, and she was like, okay, why don't we just like do like some camming on a lazy evening? Like, we don't have anything to do. I was like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. Like, for me, I really want to try it. And so I was like, okay, let's just go and cam. And so we didn't have like much preparation in terms of like the setting. And so like Carmina, she had like all this like technical knowledge about like how to like let her followers know that she was going on cam, the Chatterbait account, etc. So fortunately she took care of all that, and the only thing I did was prepare a massive bowl of popcorn with hot sauce, and then we both like were wearing matching tutus, so makeup on, and then we went on cam. And it was really, really fun. Like, I was pretty lucky to be able to do it on Carmina's channel, because she's been like doing camming for a while, so she has like a solid base of followers, like some regulars who knew that she was already going on cam, so it was like really easy just to like get into the chat room, if that's what it's called, and have like all the people there ready to watch. And I think we were there I think it was probably like 3 hours or so. And it was also very funny because even though both of us are part of the same sex industry, and so it's we didn't really know exactly in terms of like sexual chemistry. We never worked together before, so it was like a little bit like and also because we're both Mexican, and so we have like more of this like kind of like family bond. It's like if she were my cousin. I was like, oh my god, I gotta make out with my cousin. I gotta fuck my cousin. So we were just like waiting for people to get into the room, tokens and so on, setting all the rules and stuff. And of course, we weren't going to do anything without getting first a token. So it was like the first time, okay, now we have to kiss. I was like, okay, here we go. Close your eyes. And yeah, but it went really well. And it was really cool because as things were progressing, then there were like a couple of Carmina's regulars who got into the room who actually offered to moderate like the message board. So in the beginning, we were like typing a lot or talking a lot. And then at some point, of course, there's always like typical jerks that come and like do like, I don't know, write stupid things, and we had to ban them. And then these 2 users who took control as moderators of the chat room, they started banning all the jerks off the room. So we only had to like take care of what did people wanted us to do, and to have fun, like to kind of like chat with the people and just say, hey, this is who we are. That's how we know each other, like eating popcorn, chatting and so on. Then starting to do like some certain like a set of challenges, of course, things that we liked to do, that we were comfortable with doing. Such as, I don't know, like making out, kissing, licking each other's feet, kissing each other's boobs, spanking a little bit and so on. And then even at some point, one of the people who were in the room, they like proposed us a challenge. We had, fortunately, a wand with us. So the challenge was that one of us had to bite something, one piece of like clothing and so, while using the wand, high speed. And then if you drop, because of the moaning, if you drop the piece of cloth, then you deserve like some sort of like punishment, whatever. And the punishment was like some like series of spanking and so. So it was really, yeah,
it's really hot. Really nice sleepover.
Yeah, we had like a time limit on using the wand, so I was like, okay, so I feel like cheating now, and then we would just go on with the wand until we came or stuff like that.
I think that's interesting that you say about the moderation, though. That was another thing I found really fun about going that, like reading other people's messages, because they're speaking as if they're speaking really directly to that person, and no one else is reading it. Like I was just reading like last night, and it was this guy being like, I want to put my sword inside you, and things like I couldn't concentrate. The messages were ridiculous.
Yeah, somewhere. This was really nice because the comments were so moderated. And also it was really cool to observe that usually the people who like were like paying, like tipping and so on, they were the users that were like super, super decent, super sweet, like really like encouraging, like a nice vibe in the whole like camming session, because you like interact a lot. So you have like, you develop like some sort of sympathy, and it's like I don't know, it comes back and forth. And then the people who weren't paying, they were like the ones who eventually will ask you to do like things that you were in posting that you were going to do. And they were like, look at me in the camera. It's like, dude, you're not even paying. And then soon after, they will just get banned. So, and this was like usually the guys who were just like there for free. So it was really cool. And then also in the meantime, there were like other fellow cammers that will like log in. There's this French performer. Their name is Duam. I met them in person during the Portland Festival in Berlin, and they're also a cammer. And they were like, "Oh yeah, hello," and they were like, "Oh, Duam, hi, how are you doing?" So like even like
huge community already. Like,
and also I also told my partner that I was going to do camming. So they also like tried camming for the very first time in their life, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is so cool!" Like they were also like super happy with it because they've never seen me like doing those kind of things, and they were just there like creeping on me, and I was like, "Yeah," like sending like secret winks at them, like, "This is for you."
Well, that sounds like a really good first experience. My first experience was a little bit different. Actually, going to a camming studio was my very first encounter with the sex industry, because it was before I had met like queer feminist pornographers, and I was like I was still, I was fascinated by this whole industry, and I was trying to find a way to get in, but I wasn't sure how, and when, and where to do it. So I think I just found like some Craigslist ad or some ad somewhere.
Craigslist.
Yeah, I love Craigslist. Isn't that how we all got into porn? So it was just some ad about, kind of not really explicit, but I guess you would guess what it was about. Anyway, I answered, and then I got this address that was like really far away, somewhere in deep, far away Berlin. So I had to take like the S-Bahn, the U-Bahn, a tram, a bus, and then I was like in this like industrial place. There was nothing. I was like, okay, this is totally what you should not do. But I still found the address, which took me a while. And then I came into this weird like flat which was a cam studio, and there was the very cliche fat nerdy dudes running it, and 4 to 6 women working. And the interesting thing was that they were working in the same room. So basically they had all their computers in the middle of the room, and they sat around it, and each of them had like a different sofa with a different like background, What happened is I never got really to perform because I kind of freaked out and decided I wasn't really feeling it. So I was like, yeah, I'll call you. But what was interesting is that I got to talk to some of the cammers, and this is back in 2000. Gosh, when was this? 2007 or something. And they were, they were having a good time. They were chatting, they were, smoking. And it was really interesting because they knew exactly what the frame of the cam was, and they would do. Like they would perform a lot of stuff just, in the right framing, but be doing other stuff on the side. Like they would be like chatting on their phones or actually they told me about all these tricks they would do. For example, say a client would ask them to pee and drink their pee. They would like hold the glass just outside of frame and like actually, pee. And then like one of her fellow cammers would just hand her a glass with apple juice. And then they would be like, I'm going to drink all this like hot, juicy pee I just peed. And so it was actually, it was really interesting. And it was a positive experience, although I didn't go the whole way.
Was it good? Was it pay good?
See, here's the thing. I don't remember, but I don't remember exactly how much they got, but I remember I felt like it wasn't really worth my time because it was a lot back then. Like that studio was a lot about hanging around in these free rooms and managing to get people to book you for a private session. And it felt, from hearing their stories, and they said like they were really saying, okay, you have to really do it on a regular basis so you get your clients. Otherwise, you can spend hours just like being around, not getting any money. And I was like, okay, I don't have the time, to spend some hours just waiting for someone to come and get me in a private show. Also, I wasn't confident enough, I guess, that I would like manage, or I don't know. But no, so it was, I guess if you were good and you were good with clients, you could earn quite a lot of money. But I guess also back then it wasn't that big. So I guess it wasn't that much traffic neither.
It's very niche at that point, like 2007 you said.
Well, I guess so that was already big, but I feel not as big as now. I think it's interesting that it seems, like in any other industry, and especially also in the porn industry nowadays, it seems like there's some big players that are getting the monopoly over a lot of these platforms, which I think it's a pity because on the one side, being a cammer, you could be your own manager, right? You can do it from whatever you want. You can, but then on the other hand, like I was watching this documentary from OVD, Pornocracy, and she's interviewing some of the biggest platforms, Live Jasmine, and it's an IT company, right? So the IT company sits somewhere in Belgium, and she actually goes there and you see all this like it looks like a bank, right? It could be anything. And she interviews one of the managers, and he himself says, well, we're not part of the adult industry. We're just providing IT services. So you really get that they really don't want to have anything to do also with the industry that they're actually working, which is very problematic, I think. And I feel like, a lot of these IT companies, like from the IT company up to the manager that maybe, has a studio and provides us a room for the woman or people working there, they're all taking their cut. So at the end of the day, what's like the money that comes, the revenues that the cameras are doing and what actually gets paid off, it's, it could be really little. And I guess there is some other platforms that are trying to avoid the middleman and, trying to provide sex workers with a better, with a safer space where they have more control of what they're earning.
I think it's a typical case when it comes to sex work, all the difficulties that we have in the industry. For example, having like these companies taking a big cut of what the cameras earn. And also on the other hand, like having like these sort of companies, like the one you visited, but many of them can be pretty dodgy in their practices, pretty unethical. And this, for example, this very popular Spanish performer, her name is Irina Vega. She has quite a name for herself in Spain already, and until very recently, she was able to denounce like this marketing guy from this very popular website for cams in Spain. And someone like as popular as her, who has been in the business for such a long time, until very recently was able to talk about like these kind of situations. So, as well, like in many other like sorts of sex work branches, like camming is also like quite a difficult platform where you cannot make your money like straight. You still have like to give like big cuts to many people.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in seeing the views on this topic from our guest, who is going to join us now. Maybe we're going to have a little break and call her in. What do you guys say?
Yes, let's do it.
And now we've come to my favorite part. We have a very special dear guest with us at the studio, Dion De Rossi. Hi, Dion. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Would you like to introduce yourself for us and our audiences?
So my name's Dion. I am an Australian sex worker, and so I do mostly escorting, cam work, and some porn as well.
Nice. How long have you been doing sex work?
I've been a sex worker, I think, for about 6 years. I think it's a bit hard to keep track of how long now. And I've probably been doing online kind of sex work only in the last year and a bit.
How did you decide to start camming?
Camming, I think, was largely due to the fact that I was traveling a lot. When I lived in Australia, before I came to Berlin, I lived in a very remote area. So I lived on an animal sanctuary, like in the middle of the forest. And so, you know, if I wanted to go to an out call or see a client or something like this, it would be like a 45 to 2 hour drive. And camming was just a really easy way to continue up with sex work without actually having to leave the property so regularly.
Could you talk us through a session? Like, is it always the same? Do you have a usual, flow that you do? Like, how does it look like? How can we picture it?
So camming works pretty differently depending on the site that you use. So what I use a lot of the time is a UK-based sex work directory in a way. And basically you just log on and you say that you're online. It's not a shared room or anything like that, so it's only private shows. And then you just wait for someone to pay for a show, then your camera comes on, then you kind of talk about what they want to see, and then you'd go through doing all of that. If I was using something more like where you're constantly on show, then it's a little bit different because you're kind of just there with people being able to come in and out of your room whenever they want. They don't necessarily have to pay. And then people will tip you to do certain things. But it's just all these men just coming at you constantly with their requests. And then you have to keep track of which ones have actually tipped you so that you know which ones to pay attention to. So yeah, something private I prefer to do because it's a little bit easier to keep track of who wants what.
But if you're not in a showroom, how do you get a private chat started then?
Well, with adult work, they would just go onto the site, see who was available for that day. They'd see your profile, your pictures, what kind of things you do, and then they'd decide whether they wanted to see a show with you or see a show with someone else.
And do you have any coming role models? Is there any people that you like, that you look up to, that have inspired you, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. I think because I'm quite new to camming compared to escorting, I would say that I've definitely received a lot of help from other people in the industry. So, for example, Chelsea Poe's given me a lot of advice because they do most of their work through camming. People like Charlie Ten, who I think has also shot with you guys. I know Heidi Switch is really great on cam, and the community has been really good at helping you out and giving you tips to make money and how to make a show last longer and how to get an audience and all of that kind of stuff. So I would say not so much role models in the sense of they're doing this kind of shows that I want to be doing, but definitely role models in the way that they support other workers in the industry and try and help grow the industry that way.
What have you learnt since you started? Have you sort of changed your setup at all? I know when me and Pandora were camming at the weekend, but we were watching people. Some people had a really professional setup. It was that can't be their house, or they've set up a corner in their house for it, or it's a studio. Do you have a specific...
Oh yeah, some people go all out. They've got spinning wheels and raffles and set designs and body paint, and I've seen people on trampolines and trampolining while they do stuff. It's there's a lot you can it's a very creative medium.
All the equipment in the background to tempt you.
Yeah, I'm not so exciting with it. I don't know, I just sit in my room and then
cup of tea, teddy bear.
Yeah, I just kind of sit there and masturbate, but I don't know, it's I should be more into it because there are some pretty great sets out there.
Yeah, but it's also kind of the ratio, because I think that sometimes when you do camming, people just consider the moment in which you log on the website, but they don't consider all the work that you have to put behind, even doing your makeup or putting the setup and so on. So I guess I don't know if that's important for you, to kind of determine how much time do you make the setup and for the amount of money that you're going to make or you expect that you're going to make.
Yeah, I think definitely the thing with camming is that you cannot ever kind of predict an amount. Maybe some people can if they've been doing it for a really long time, but for me the setup is not so much what's important. It's more the way I prepare myself, so just making sure I have everything in a place where I can grab it, wearing a lot of layers because you get paid to check things off, so you you need to make it last. You know, you don't want someone to come in for like a striptease and you just like take off one thing and then it's like, ta-da. You know, you need to like have some mystery and some action going. And yeah, I just like make sure I have lots of vibrators, lots of toys, like games. You can do things like get a raffle going to like see what people get, all of that kind of stuff.
Do you have any regulars like you do in like escorting? Would you have any regulars in camming and everything like that?
For me, to be honest, I'm kind of like too sporadic with my work to really have regulars, but I know that for most people that work on cam, they will have days that they do it and a set amount of time. And then if someone wants to see them, then those clients just make sure that they're on time when their favorite model is on. I have a lot of regulars for private shows, so like Skype bookings and this kind of thing. But in my experience, the regulars tend to want to take things off the site eventually and just pay you directly and set up everything at a time that's more convenient for them.
Do you have like, if you've got lots of private shows or regulars, do you find it's quite different between your clients, what you end up doing, or...
Yeah,
for lots of different things.
Yeah, I mean, when it's a general show, you kind of try and be really mainstream and really not normative, but you try and like do things that are going to be appealing to a lot of people and they're not going to freak someone out so much.
Yeah.
Whereas like when they know it's a private show, then they just like get up to all kinds of things. Yeah, and you can see the client in a Skype booking, so...
You can see them?
Yeah.
Is it weird that you can't see them normally if it's a...
No. I mean, there's so many of them in the room at any given time. It's
do you prefer to see them because it kind of gives it more of a one-on-one, or is it something that you kind of...
No, I prefer the one-on-one shows.
Yeah.
And I think it's to do with being an escort and coming from this background.
Yeah.
It's more about building a connection with someone, finding out what they want, getting into what desires they have that are not being met outside of like transactional sexual encounters, and then building on that and just trying to like get to the heart of their specific requests and find out what it is and then build on that over time.
I think that's the interesting thing. Like there's obviously more of a kind of emotional connection with camming instead of someone, say, going online to watch porn.
Yeah.
Maybe. How do you establish that with people? Is it similar to escorting or?
I think camming in itself is quite an intensely personal form of sex work because most of the time you're just like sitting around and you're talking to people, and this, in my experience, is where the majority of money comes in. It's not so much about people paying for you to do specific acts on screen, but it's about you're there and they'll tip you every so often and they'll be talking to you and like asking about your day, what do you like. It's quite an interesting culture because I feel like this interactive aspect of it and the immediacy of it, it brings about a different kind of clientele. They're really wanting some kind of connection on an emotional level that they're not getting outside of a transactional encounter. And yeah, it's much more based on your personality and what they project onto your personality through what you say.
Do you have any things that are like your favorite things to do in a private show, or anything that you wouldn't do?
Yeah, my favorite bookings are generally like the foot fetish ones. They're the ones that just want you to like show your feet on cam and then they just like jerk off, or they look at how dirty your feet are and then you just tell them, oh, I've just been walking around the streets of Berlin all day. I'm so dirty. Such a dirty girl walking everywhere, and like, you know, or you're like putting your feet into things and like massaging your feet, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I find foot fetishes particularly interesting. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's...
How long is usually a private show? Like, what would be the average time?
If you're on cam and someone takes you private, so something like adult work, it's generally just however long it takes them to get off. So, you know, that could be only like 1 minute, or it could be like 10 minutes, or, you know, sometimes they log on and then 30 seconds later they're gone, and whether that's because they've got what they need or someone's walked into the room, you don't really know. But, if it's a spontaneous thing, it's more like that. And if it's a private Skype show, then that's generally for an hour.
And would you say, like, we feel like there's more and more sex workers coming, right, in the last years?
Yeah.
Would you say, you've also noticed a tendency, and like, what do you think are the reasons for more and more sex workers to jump on these platforms?
I think that the face of sex work is really changing, and that's a combination of things. It's to do with the fact that increasingly we're living our lives online a lot more, and this is just a platform that people are using in new and interactive ways in order to build relationships and in order to experience different sides of themselves. And then there's also the fact that sex work is just becoming increasingly more criminalized. And, a lot of people in the sex industry are facing this, whether it's because of the Swedish model that's just kind of completely taking over Europe at the moment, or whether it's just more heavy legalization like it's happening in Germany. Camming is kind of one of the last places that the law hasn't intervened in at the moment. But until it is, I think people are increasingly turning their desires and their need for connection to online intimacy. And so this is just where sex workers are going now.
And would you say, because there's a lot of different platforms out there, obviously, you talked about two that you work. We've heard that, some platforms do take a lot of cuts from the revenue from the workers. What would you say there's good platforms and then others that are really not so convenient maybe for the workers, or what's your experience? Why do you choose the platforms that you use?
I chose the platforms that I use not so much based on what percentage they take, but rather based on the traffic that their site draws. For me, there's no point working at a site that lets you keep 80% of the profits if they just don't have, the numbers to get you any decent income. Something like My Free Cams, which I think takes 30 or 40%, has millions and millions of hits every day. So even if they're taking a heavier percentage, you're still getting a lot more money in the long run. And then something like Skype shows and private bookings that I've organized myself, I always do that privately, so I'm keeping 100% of the profits from that.
And what about privacy for webcammers and so?
I haven't had any personal experience with people who have had their kind of online identities hacked outside of adult work. And adult work is a particularly dangerous one for that, because it does actually get you to put in your address as well as your photo identification, or something like Kaufmisch, which is like a Berlin escorting page. Like, a lot of sites now are asking for these huge amounts of personal information. So, for example, one site demands that you put in the nearest train station to your house. What? So that clients can book a hotel close to you. And so this is the thing. Most of these platforms are designed for, like, the punters. They're designed for the clients. They're not designed for the workers, and they're not designed for our safety. I mean, if you were to be honest with the details that people require, then there is enough information on there to completely take your identity or to find out where you live. The best way people can keep safe really is just to lie about everything when they're filling out their forms.
What about, because the whole coming thing is about it being live, but people can record your videos, obviously. So do you have any experience with that? Do you know of any clients that do record videos? Have you found maybe your sessions posted somewhere else, or?
I haven't found my sessions posted anywhere else. I think almost every single porn scene I've ever done in my entire career is on Pornhub. I mean, it's inevitable. People don't respect sex work as a real job. And, it's like all forms of media. People think if they steal stuff and put it online and then other people access it for free, they're not hurting anyone. So if you are going to do any kind of online sex work, I think you just have to be prepared for the fact that, it probably is going to be out somewhere on one of these tube sites getting hits without you being credited or paid for it.
And do you have... I'm going to get to the fun part now. Do you have any funny stories? Any anecdote that you personally, where you personally had a big laugh, or any what's the most unusual thing that you've been asked to do maybe on cam?
I get some pretty interesting requests in terms of like role play and stuff like this when it comes to private bookings. I had a client for a while who wanted to be like a mama bird and a baby bird, and I had to like make bird noises and be like "Meow," and like not talk and stuff like that and communicate with him that way.
You were the mama bird?
Yeah.
And they were the baby.
They were the baby bird in like a nest, and that was quite fun.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
It's not even weird. It's just adorable.
Yeah, it was nice. I don't know. The role play is always pretty funny. I've done some good ones. I was like a slutty nun that was on like, it was really convoluted. I was like in some foreign country with a traveling priest, and we were missionaries, and we'd been like working all day, and then we came back, and I had to like seduce him by like, flashing him and like masturbating with like the Bible and like all of this. And then like he had to be like, no, I'm saving myself for Jesus. And he didn't want to like get involved in it. So it was all him just being like, no, I can't look. And like, it's not stuff I really thought I'd be doing when I did my master's in social work, but
Do you find it like in a way rewarding being able to be this outlet for people? To like have this person come to you and be like, I want this part of me to be real and I want to share it with you, and they get to do that. Do you find that rewarding and everything like that?
Yeah, I think it's quite an honor really to be trusted with this kind of more hidden side of a lot of people's sexualities, especially when it comes to like I have clients of all different kinds of genders and sexualities, but one thing I find quite interesting in terms of the sexuality of cis hetero men is that they lose a lot of their discomfort with vulnerability in a transactional encounter, and they can be more vulnerable, and they can show things that they've either been shamed for in the past, or that they didn't know was a real thing that people could like, or something that they never thought someone could accept about them. And then they come to you with all of this emotional baggage on them when they make the request. And then to be able to be the person who says, of course it's normal and it's great and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. That's quite a huge deal.
It's quite intense.
It's really nice, actually.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a request that you've had to turn down because you felt like you wouldn't be able to do that? Because they're quite specific and there is all this vulnerability tied up in it. Has there ever been anything?
Yeah, for me, the things that I have turned down have often been out of practicality. That is something I can't physically do. They might ask to see like unprotected penetrative sex between me and another person, which is not something that I do in my personal life, so I can't do it on camera for them. Something like there was someone who wanted me to do like dick biting, and obviously my housemate didn't let me do that to him. So yeah, so there are some things that I can't fulfill, but most of the time, I don't know, most of the time the requests are quite innocent, I think.
Cool. Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, we have a little last request for you.
Yeah.
We would love you to give Pandora and Olivia a challenge. Maybe could you just teach them some coming trick or some sentence that you usually say or something, for them to try and experience, to try and perform?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess we can run through a few things. Like, say you two are both in a public chat room, so this guy's coming and this guy's going, and one of the really good things, or like the best tip, I guess, is to kind of suss out who's just there because they've been a serial browser for years and who's there because they've got some cash to spend. So yeah,
we're getting all the secrets. Okay, so how do we find the ones with the money?
So obviously what you would do, people are coming in and talking to you, and you're going to go to their profiles and you're going to look through their stats. and you see what they've donated and what they haven't. And while you do that, you have to keep them busy and not let them find out that you're actually doing it. So one thing you need to become really good at is just general small talk, keeping them chatting. What are they interested in? How is their day? What do they like? And yeah, the main thing is just to like keep them in that room. So for example, if you were to start a conversation and you were going to say like, what are you guys into? What have people been doing today? And then I say, oh, you know, I work in accounting. So you have to now be like, accounting, how interesting. Tell me so much about accounting.
I love counting things.
Yeah.
Watch me count.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Like,
yeah. 2. 3.
like Dracula from the Sesame Street.
Oh my god! Yes.
Now you have a persona, Pandora.
Yeah, you found your account personality.
Yes. I can be Big Bird.
Yeah.
I can be Oscar from the garbage, the trash can.
Yeah, you can be Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch. Do my laundry. Pretty much. Did you pick up the kids today?
See, this is the thing. Now you found it, and now you can have all the costumes. Big Bird, you've got your feather fetishes covered. You've got Oscar the Grouch. You can be like blowjob in a can.
My face is killing me. So happy in my life before, like. It's Elmo work. Tickling me. Can't believe this. I'm so gonna ruin it even more. Wait till next podcast, guys.
I feel like you're ready to go out into the world of
I'm ready
camming.
too.
Yeah.
I think you deserve a very big applause. Please give me an applause.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Dion. It was great having you here.
Thank you.
And we'll be following you on Twitter at Dion de Rossi.
Yes.
And yeah, have a lovely day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, I thought that was a really nice chat with Dion. What do you guys think?
Really good. I think it's actually super difficult to talk about camming because it's so personal with who, like you're speaking to, as Dion was saying. She got so many different clients, and me and Pandora had an experience of so many different things. So yeah, I think it's I understand it a lot better now that you would go onto a camming site to have that immediate connection and get involved.
I think it also like this whole panorama of camming like shows that it's a more diverse branch of sex work than as compared to pornography, and it's also like it's a lot more easy to find like different types of bodies, and also to have like some. I don't know, that's actually pretty cool because coming from pornography, when you have like so many like different like barriers when it comes to access and the kind of content that you produce and as a performer also to struggle to work with companies that you feel identified with, when it comes to camming, you can pretty much develop the kind of persona you want to show and then put it out there. And there you can find almost everything on camming and no one is giving you like some sort of like barrier of access. Depending on your like body type, presentation, sexuality,
like the kinds of tags they have on those websites, and then it dictates what you do by body type. Often, it's like blonde with this, doing this.
Yeah. So we could say that that camming makes maybe diversifying and like
it definitely diversifies things, and
at the same time, it's also a little bit tricky because there's a lot of like exposure. When it comes like to that proximity, for example, when Dion was explaining like this like emotional part of how close you get to your to the people who see you and how like vulnerable are you to like to stalkers, and so it's something that I don't know. There's like less filter when it comes to issues of body shaming, of being like your body like scrutinized or being bullied. But at the same time, I think that you also like get more. It's easier to get more support from the people who are your fans, for example. Whereas when you're in porn and so on, like you really need to build like a massive like amount of followers to be able to get like access to resources and so. And when it comes to camming, it's a lot easier I mean, you find that in a faster way, and then you can also get help from those kind of fans, like setting wish lists or like saying, oh, hey guys, I have like this project and so on. And then like just like help reigns from, I don't know, from many different, a lot faster than when you are.
Yeah, I would also say out of my experience and what we've been talking about, that it's a very intense and emotionally engaging, kind of sex work. Definitely like a great difference of doing porn.
I hope people get something out of that having listened to it today, because I haven't ever heard anyone talking about camming really before, and I think that's something we noticed on that website. There were so many really young teens.
So many teenagers on there.
And they were really treating it like just normally Skyping a friend. Like they seem very natural and at home, and like maybe there's not that much discussion about this out in like public discourse and to sort of educate on it. And there could be a lot more of that because, I mean, maybe they are totally clued up. I don't know. But yeah, that was something we noticed.
No, but I totally agree. Yeah, there should, since it's so out there and so many people are using it, there should be more talk about it. Also to teach the people a respectful way of dealing with the workers.
Because we didn't know either.
And an ethical. Like you guys.
We were making everyone dance for us.
How to manage the proximity, because I guess at the same time, like, in the way, for example, that I witnessed when I did the camming with Carmina was also that you build good relationships with people, so you can actually nurture that kind of like positive interaction with normal people who watches you, and I don't know, like you give something good to them, they give something back to you, and in the long run, that also helps to erase the stigma attached to sex work.
And it's not being pirated. Like it's like if you're webcamming with someone, it's such a personal experience. Like, sure, someone can screen grab the whole thing, but it will never be tailored for you. And that's what webcamming is. It's for you. And Pornhub has so much stuff ripped from everything else.
Right.
Well, we also have, just a little reminder, we also have cams on earthdays.com. And I think I feel like we've all learned something today. I'm really looking forward to our next get together, and where we might all go on cam and, and spend those tokens you guys have.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't spend anymore.
Save them.
I have to buy so many costumes.
I wanna have them too. I wanna use them.
Okay.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for today. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
See you very soon.
So that was the 4th episode of the Earth Days podcast. I hope you had as much fun as we did. Remember to follow us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, or whatever other platform you're listening. And follow us also on Twitter @EarthDays to keep updated of all the amazing footage that we're bringing out there. Thank you. Bye-bye. The Earth Days podcast.